I'm very happy to see we still have a full house. Thank you to all the participants for their commitment to our event today. And to our online viewers, I know we still have quite a few followers online, so thank you for your attendance. I want to remind about the site visits, so I hope you all reallocated yourselves into other visits for those who were planned for the track box. If you haven't, you can still do it at the reception. Otherwise, there will be a presentation made here by CEDEX on the track box. And there will be, otherwise, the lunch at 1 o'clock. Finishing at 2 o'clock, you will find your guide for the registered visits to which you have subscribed with a sign outside of the entrance. There will be 3 signs, therefore. I now have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker, Mrs. Maria José Garcia Prieto, I apologize, Project Officer, ERTMS Unit at the European Union Agency for Railways. Maria José has 20 years of experience in rail and mostly in ERTMS and ETCS. Thank you. If you would like to take the floor is yours.
So, yeah, thank you again for being here today in Madrid, and I hope you had a wonderful evening last night. So, yeah, today we're going to speak about how we see in the agency the introduction of innovations in general in the regulations in the TSI domain, more specifically about how we see the future of the space solutions in the framework of the TSIs. Okay, so first of all, which are the prerequisites for us in order to be able to introduce the changes and innovations in the regulatory framework? Those principles have been mentioned yesterday also, most of them. Those are general principles, not only applicable for satellite technologies, but for every technology in general. Of course, as we have said before, standardized, common accepted solutions, preserve above all interoperability and safety, that's paramount and mandatory for us. Also protection of investments, and this has been extensively discussed yesterday. We should make the changes as far as possible compatible with current products and versions so that we can ease the migration periods. Also to have clear and balanced benefits between all the actors in the sector, of course. That the innovation should be justified and sustainable, economically sustainable, and also in time, I mean, long-term technological solutions. And finally, migration. Migration was also mentioned yesterday. It's very important because if we have very good technologies, but migration is very hard, in the end, those technologies will not arrive to the rail domain. So this is a little bit about the process. I don't know if we can call it exactly a process. It is just as the same slide as Daniel and Leah presented yesterday with the pyramid, but I do not have a pyramid. But it is the same messages. So on one side, we have EU-Rail with the system pillar and innovation pillar. Innovation pillar demonstrating all the common agreed solutions and come up with the answers to the questions we have. System pillar as a unique platform in order to bring all the sector together and a sectoral approach for all those satellite-based solutions for railways. And an important tool for us is the standardization and TSI input plan that we will use also in ERA in order to assess through the ERA pre-assessment template in order to assess if the innovations and the changes can be adopted in the regulations. Of course, our colleagues from USPA that are the responsibles for building those new services for railways and support all the new services, and also helping us with innovation programs and projects to demonstrate the new solutions. And finally, as ERA, as the system authority, as I've said before, we will reassess those solutions and changes within the system pillar, standardization and TSI input plan, and if accepted, they will come to our change control management process. So speaking more concretely now about train positioning, in the CCS TSI, upcoming or future CCS TSIs, for us, satellite positioning is just or part of the solution, is not the only solution, as you know. And we have many questions still to be solved in order to be able to introduce it in the regulations, but as we said yesterday, work is on progress on that. So for us, we have like three main work streams that should be worked together. One is, for us, maybe the most important one is which are the use cases we want to target with the satellite positioning and the enhanced train positioning. Are we targeting ETCS positioning along track? Are we also targeting track selectivity? Are we also targeting, for example, ATO? Because in the end, those use cases are the ones that determine, on one side, the performances you need, and on the other side, your business case for the sector. So that is a very, very important question for us. Of course, if the performances levels are achievable or not, the safety level is achievable or not, and which are the new interfaces and new interoperability requirements that we will need. On the other side, in parallel, we have the architecture, let's say, work stream. As we've said before, the principles of onboard modularity shall be respected. This is a basic principle also for us and a facilitator of the introduction of the technology, and hopefully also will promote the entrance of the newcomers in the market of positioning into railways also. And finally, a new actor for us is the use of the EGNSS services, for example, EGNOS services or other services within the solution. How can we fit those services and those systems without the architectural principles, the solutions, and how can we introduce them in the specifications and in the regulations. And a very important thing also for us is the timeline for all of that. Because we have a lot of factors that we need to put together in the upcoming years. We have a tight schedule. We have, as we've said before, innovation projects. In innovation pillar, we have system pillar, work and decisions. We have ERA change control management process. We have the time for USPA and ESA to build the services. So all of that shall fit together in a, let's say, roadmap or a schedule, so that we all know which are the targets and the deadlines, you know. Yeah, I'm going to speak also about the FRMCS, because when speaking about satellite technologies for railways, it's not only about positioning, but as we've said before, also about communications. And yeah, the message for us here is very clear. Yeah, FRMCS is the new paradigm for us. GSMR will be decommissioned in a few years from now on. So, of course, one of the principles of FRMCS, as it has been said before, is bearer flexibility. So yes, satellite, in principle, will be another bearer without the FRMCS context. Okay? But it has to be underlined that for satellite communications to come into CCS TSI, FRMCS principles and specifications shall be respected. Okay, we've been speaking before about the use cases, the performance we need for communications, latency, and so on. But all those information, all those use cases are already described in the FRMCS documents. So you can use the FRMCS specification as a starting point for you for the satellite domain in order to build the services we need for railways and for CCS TSI. Another very important thing for us, for railways, is the KPIs and the requirements that we need for rail critical applications that are very, very stringent. For example, latency, availability, security, of course. So another important thing is that the satellite solutions can fulfill those very stringent requirements that we need in the critical communications. It has been underlined before by Adif also, the issue of the voice communication. This is a very important issue also for us because FRMCS is not just about ETCS communication or data communication or ATO communication, but it is also about voice communication that it is still very important for rail operations. The deployment scenario, we agree with the view you have in this room that for us, satellite communication will be mainly devoted to regional lines, though low density lines, or as backup of other solution as proprietary FRMCS networks or MNOs networks. This is for us the most, let's say, probable scenario for deployment. And about the solutions, this important thing, as I've said before, is that we can build solutions inside the FRMCS context. So if they are natively integrated within 5G, 3GPP scheme, that's the better solution. And also that they can meet our requirements in terms of availability and so latency and so on. So we do not really care about which is the constellation in the end, if it's LEO, me, or wait, but about the performances you can bring. So I had the question there: is it really Iris Squared the solution? And well, I've gotten some answers today that it may be the solution. So that's maybe good news for us also in the beginning. But I encourage you to work with the FRMCS project also to achieve that. And okay, lastly, we also need positioning in other applications that are not basically ETCS or in the ETCS domain or in the CCS TSI. For example, we long for good positioning to support other TSIs as the TAF TSI. In the TAF TSI, we have the principles for communication between an infra manager and a rail undertaking about where is the train, where is the estimated time of arrival, and for that, GNSS can bring also very good advantages because for the time being, we have position information only in the fine spots, but we are longing to have also a continuous position information for the TAF TSI, and we hope also that we can bring GNSS into that. This is also a work in progress for future revisions of a TAF TSI. And I have a question here also for you, for the audience. Can we use the same location solution that we are going to use in ETCS also for TAF TSI? I guess yes. So that will increase. No, okay, and that's an answer also, a valid answer. So in that case, well, we could increase also the cost-benefit analysis of our solutions. And finally, just a reminder of the challenges, regulatory challenges we have ahead of us in the following years, upcoming years, with the introduction of satellite technology in railways. First, we have to work, as I've said before, in the interfaces, functions, new interoperability requirements. For example, if we will have with the augmentation, we will need new interfaces. Digital map will be another element of the solution, the locator, and Do we need to define new interoperability constituents or not? Do we need to define a new part in the CCS system or not? Which are the new specifications we need? For example, do we need Sensenelec specifications, for example, for receivers to be used in the rail domain, for standard receivers, GNSS receivers and EGNOS receivers to be used in the rail domain? Of course, as it was underlined yesterday by Mr. Doppelbauer and Joe Debaucher, do we really need to preserve backwards compatibility? So we have also to make a reflection in order to have a change that it's as far as possible compatible with the current versions of the ETCS specifications, so that we do not need a new probably system versions or something, and we can make a compatible change as far as possible. And last, of course, also the migration considerations and the balance in the business case between the infra managers and the rail tender takings. And I want to add that for us, the use of new services, GNSS services, as for example, EGNOS service, is a new scenario also from a regulatory perspective, because we have to tackle things that are new for us, or depending on how EGNOS is used in the solution, and which are the requirements, the interoperability requirements, the safety requirements, the interfaces for EGNOS. We may need to define a third-party company or third-party scenario that is giving services to the rail domain. How we define this third party in the regulations? Do we have to certify this third party or no? And also, how do we certify and authorize EGNOS in the framework of the TSIs and the rail regulations? That's my message for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria José, for this very clear presentation. So we are slowly reaching the end of our official program. Our event will conclude with a forward-looking perspective outlining the roadmap for the future of satellite-based rail signaling and the role each of us can play in shaping this transformative journey. And now I have the pleasure of calling on stage Mr. Daniel Lopour, Market Development Officer at the European Agency for the Space Programme. Mr. Lopour, the floor is yours with your panel.
So once again, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's about 10 years ago, approximately, that I got the task at the European Union Agency for the Space Programme to start addressing the topic of possible use of satellites for localization in the railway domain. In the course of the time, it grew slightly. As you might have seen today in the morning, our activities have widened a bit for what concerns also SATCOM. There is one other point that we missed at this conference. We maybe won't miss it next time, as we broaden up the topics also in the wider sense of the railway infrastructure management, which is Copernicus. However, from the previous sessions, one thing is pretty clear. After all those years, and it's always been my dream, we are arriving at the point in time when we are able to say that we can discuss practical steps towards adoption of EU-based solutions in railway signaling. And I'm also especially happy that the journey has been actually paved with many very interesting relations with multiple user associations, users, stakeholders from the industrial side that were always very helpful and shaped somehow our views that were at the beginning very similar to those that we might sometimes still hear about inventing many new ways of how to address things, but missing one important element that I would like to again reiterate over here. And it was said by Josef yesterday. We have one railway system, and we should have one solution as Europe. And this is also what is fully behind the strategy of EUSPA, which we are intending to follow regardless of what the space component is. If it's GNSS, if it's SATCOM, maybe with a slight difference in Copernicus, because that's less regulated, but over here, it is in our clear interest to make sure that our solutions are forming one single railway and one single solution. And for that, before starting the practical steps, maybe let me once again reiterate on the first practical step that is closest to us at the moment, which is our user consultation platform on the 7th of November in Sevilla, where we will again discuss with hopefully a number of you, namely the infrastructure managers and associations, users in general, about what is actually required at the sectorial level from the perspective of the space program as a required performance. We will open for the first time also this year the topic of the user requirements for Copernicus and SATCOM. Whereas in GNSS, we already have a set of user requirements. We discussed this with you. For what concerns Copernicus and SATCOM, we have something like this. So it will be up to you to fill this empty sheet and help us write the specifications and requirements from your perspective that will need to be somehow shaped further, and that will need to be fulfilled together with the studies that we did in the past in order to make the service for rail a reality. So thank you for this. I mean, we can start for what concerns the panel debate. I will like to invite the panelists right now to take the floor. So first of all, please let me invite Fiammetta Diani, the head of Market, Downstream and Innovation Department of EUSPA. As our second panelist, I would like to invite Philippe Michel, head of Strategy, Coordination and the FutureNav programs at the Directorate of Navigation from the European Space Agency. And now let's go to the railway part. So, first of all, please let me invite Silvia Dominguez Fernandez, Manager for ERTMS from INECO. As the next panelist, I would like to kindly invite Miguel Rodriguez Plaza, Head of Area Research, Development and Innovation Projects from ADIF. As the next panelist, Jorge Iglesias, Director of the Railway Interoperability Laboratory from CEDEX, our host today. Thank you. As the next speaker, I would like to invite Valentin Barrault, the Train Localization Project Manager from SNCF, but today he will be wearing the hat of EURail FA2. As the next speaker, please, Joe De Boschere, Head of ERTMS Unit from European Railway Agency. And last but not least, I would like to kindly invite Jan Conlon, the head of the system pillar from the European Union Joint Undertaking for Railways, EURail. So welcome everybody, and once again thank you for joining this session on the practical steps towards adoption of EU space solution in railway signaling. We are back with signaling right now, and first of all, I would like to kindly ask you if you could share a couple of words also about your role and the role of the organization in the wider sense in the topic. You have something like 3 minutes for that at least. So starting with Fiammetta, please.
Yes, thanks, Daniel, and good morning, everybody. So my name is Fiammetta Diani, and I lead the team of Market Downstream and Innovation at EUSPA, the EU Agency for the Space Program that you heard about quite a lot during this event, also from my director yesterday. So what we are doing at EUSPA in my area is to see our EU space program really used in our daily life, in our businesses, creating a new space economy for Europe and making it possible to have a return on investment of our investment in space. You know that the European Union is the first investor in space in this moment. We have amazing system up and running, Galileo, that is coming with unique services that also our competition is not able to deliver. Copernicus, #1 space data service provider today in the world. And we are coming now with the IRIS². First, we will have our GovSatcom and many others. So I think that as a European Union, we must be proud of this and see it used as widely as possible. In my team, we are working along 17 market areas, of which one is rail. So not to put pressure on the sector, but we achieved already the uptake in some other sectors. So I wait for rail to see it implemented. And we are investing in space for rail since a decade, together with our partners, the other agencies in the rail domain, the joint undertaking, as well as the European Space Agency. We saw amazing technical results. We saw great contribution for standardization. We saw even operational pilot cases. So I think it's now time to go to implementation. So it's no more time for experiment or to prove the technology. It's time to go to implementation. We'll talk about it also later, but this is why I'm here today and why I would like to contribute to these next steps and then to the conclusion later on. So thanks for this opportunity to share a short introduction.
Thank you very much, Fiammetta. And to stay with space, I would like to now ask kindly Philip if you could provide your views and your introduction, please.
Thank you, Daniel. And first of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting the European Space Agency, so ERA, EUSPA, and of course the RGU. Very happy to be here today. Obviously, we come from the space community, so we are not from the train community, but we are talking about indeed solutions coming from space for the train applications. The role of the European Space Agency in general is to propose ambitious and to implement ambitious space program for its member states, and to prepare to make sure that the European industry is at the forefront of the technology for the space program. So this is our basic role, and in doing that, we have a very strong partnership with the European Union since years now, and EUSPA in particular, for what concerns, let's say, GNSS, but also other programs, but today we are talking about GNSS. So this is why we are here today. And I'm really delighted to see, let's say, being from the Space Agency and seeing that space solutions are more and more being used in the economy. We are delighted to see all the work which is being done to see how space solutions can bring benefits to the space community. As a general introduction, I'll stop here, but then I will come back on what we should do and what I think should be the priorities.
Okay, thank you very much, Philip. And as I come also from the space domain, maybe I can say that after all the years we somehow already belong to the rail segment. So thank you again for your words. And now let's move to the rail segment. So Silvia, could you please share a couple of words with us to introduce your organization? And please, the floor is yours.
Yes. So again, thank you for the organization. I think it's been very interesting couple of days. So in ECO, we are an engineering firma that we're based here in Spain, so we work with most of the Spanish authorities, so since the beginning designing the system, ERTMS, then supporting in the deployment, and then also participating even in the authorization for placing in service of the system, included testing campaigns and testing strategies. So And in Spain, as being one of the early adopters of the ERTMS system, we have also been working quite strongly with the European Commission, and now having a lot of also international experience deploying the system, monitoring the system, and indeed trying to support so that the ERTMS system is deployed along Europe in an interoperable way. For us also, innovation is very important because, of course, we know the system and we have been working with the systems in the first 2.2 version of the ERTMS, but of course we need to see up to the future, and this is the way that we have also been involved in projects with the satellite technology and ERTMS now for a long time. So happy to be here.
Thank you very much, Silvia. As the next speaker, I would like to also invite Miguel Rodriguez to share with us a couple of the introductory words. Miguel, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Daniel. Good morning to everybody. It's a pleasure to be here in this panel and share this table with all these colleagues. And I came from ADIF. I joined ADIF in 2003. And I started to work in the maintenance of the high-speed line Madrid-Barcelona, and after that I joined the innovation direction. We are focused in provide a project that solve our challenges. That means that we are in our department focused in development projects for the different areas. So we are working in areas that are quite separated in terms of technology, such as maintenance, for example, or signaling system. So we have right now ongoing around 44 projects, and we have combined national and international R&D project. And as well, we are focusing on solve the challenges of ADIF, and obviously we are trying to cover this gap that there is between the TL6 and TL7, so we provide our lines, our experience, and our knowledge in order to welcome new technologies and test it before it can be implemented. That is for my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miguel. Jorge, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you to the organization for inviting us. And also, I would like to say that CEDES is really proud of hosting this event. We are really happy that so many people come here. Also, you will have the opportunity this afternoon to visit my lab. I'm the director of the CEDES Rail Interoperability Lab. It's a lab focused on ERTMS. It was created in 2001. Therefore, we have been more than 22 years working on this field. We have helped ADIF to deploy ERTMS, ADIF and Renfe in the Spanish high-speed network for many years. And also we are a research and development institution, therefore we are convinced, and we are always promoting new technologies that have sense, of course, not all new technologies. But in this sense, I think that the GNSS and SATCOM, IRIS² or whatever we will have in the future, will be a great opportunity for railways, for sure. And this is an evidence. We can increase ETCS performances, and we can strongly decrease the cost of deployment. And this is very important to complete the deployment of ETCS around Europe. We know that we have still a real challenge in Europe to deploy ETCS, not only the high-speed line, but also in the conventional lines to increment and to increase not only the interoperability, but also, and most important for me, the safety. And in this sense, we have been participating in several projects related to the use of these satellite technologies in railways. I will explain later on. And we support, as I said yesterday, both approaches we have seen in Europe, the virtual release and the enhanced odometry. They are fully compatible, and they are fully able to be included in the TSI. And also I would like to highlight the role of the labs. At the lab, I'm the director. We have an European association for these accredited ETCS labs, because we can offer a platform to test these technologies in advance before testing on track, and therefore saving costs and trying to demonstrate its viability before in the lab, which is a necessary step. And that's all for now. Daniel, thank you.
Thank you very much, Jorge, and once again, thanks a lot for hosting us. I guess that the second day already everybody feels like home in your beautiful premises. Thanks. Thank you. Next comes Valentin. Please, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Daniel, for having me here. Well, so I'm the head of the localization team and projects of SNCF. We have been working on train safe localization for quite some time now, through different projects with different partners, suppliers, and also operators. One of these projects is Log4Rail. It's a project that is about to end up. Actually, we have an online webinar next week where we have been performing extensive testing in this project. So if you wish to come to this webinar, you can come to see me afterwards. I can give you more detail about it. Another one is CLUG2, follow-up of the CLUG project, in which we have been working with different suppliers and operators to develop a solution based on GNSS, EGNOS, and some IMUs. This was presented yesterday by José Bertolín, our project coordinator. And the last one, last but not least, it's the FP2 R2D2 project that was also presented yesterday, in which SNCF has also some different activities in lead, as we're working as a leader of the work package 21 related to the definition of rail user needs for localization. We're also part of the work package 22, where there are the 8 localization demonstrators that will perform demonstration. And actually, the CLUG2 demonstrator is one of these 8 demonstrators, so it will perform demonstration in the frame of the CLUG2 project, but also in continuation in the FP2 R2D2 project. And the last point is related to the EGNOS for rail activities that have been defined between the rail and the space sector in the past year. So SNCF is leading these activities through the R2D2 project. And therefore, I will represent today the FP2 R2D2 partners relating to, with regard to the rail user need definition, of course, the EGNOS for rail activities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Valentin, for your introduction. And now I would like to kindly ask Jo also to share a couple of introductory words with us.
Okay, so Jo de Boschere, I'm head of unit for ERTMS at the agency, the railway agency. I hope everybody knows what the railway agency is. So maybe just some words, what is our ERTMS unit doing in this context? I think we can look here at our role as system authority, meaning that we maintain the specifications, so we correct errors, we try to introduce enhancements like this, or like ATO JO2, what we introduced in the TSI that just was published last week. But it's not ERA itself that do it, we do it together with the sector. So we are looking to get the inputs. Previously inputs came sometimes directly from Shift2Rail, or inputs came from, like in the frame of FRMCS from UIC. But now in this context it has been changed, and I'm more looking to my neighbor to get good input for discussions we will have in our change control management board, or what we call it EECT, the extended ETCS core group, where we will discuss the technical solutions and how to introduce these technical solutions, looking at backwards compatibility and so on. So I think Maria already said a lot of things, so we will see in the discussions what our focus will be in the next years and our role we have to play to get those innovations smoothly integrated in the legal framework.
Thank you very much, Jo. And now for those of you who participated to the session of yesterday afternoon with the associations, actually Jan was already introduced over there, but maybe let's give him one more chance to do it himself on his own. Thank you, Jan. Please.
Thanks, Daniel. Good afternoon to all. So my name is Ian Conlon. So I head up the so-called system pillar within Europe's rail. To explain just a little bit the logic of the system pillars. So compared to Shift to Rail, in Europe's Rail we have two pillars. The innovation pillar, focused on research and development, and Valentine is part of that, and the system pillar. And the system pillar was identified really as a bridge between the R&D and the specification world, because often, or usually, they are two separate worlds, and especially for rail, where we are dealing with specific interventions on specific parts of the networks. When we're talking about European level deployment, there really needs to be a strong coordination sector-wide on what is wanted at a strategic level and then the European level specifications. So that was identified as a gap in the consideration of the new joint undertaking, and the system pillar is there to try and bridge that gap. So it's a specific structure with dedicated resource, a dedicated governance structure, essentially to try and, as Jo was saying, support the sector in the convergence of the evolution of the system, in particular on the CCS side, so directly relevant to satellite, and in the end to for this topic and others in the CCS area to support the agency in its role as system authority. A broad point. We talk about satellite solutions. The blocking point for introduction of satellite solutions to an extent is a demonstration of it working, but the bigger blocking point is a convergence of approach of the usage of satellite within the evolution of the system. And that convergence of approach is what is difficult to achieve and has been difficult to achieve. So what we hope now, we have a lot of work based on a lot of excellent work from Shift to Rail in terms of the technical development of the process. We have this integrated work program to ensure that the technical demonstrators are in place, and the steps for GNSS, etc., to have the rail functionalities and specificities is being designed, but also through the system pillar work, the opportunity for the sector to converge on the general strategy for the evolution of the process and the support to the development of quality specifications to then help the agency in introducing further TSI change. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jan, and once more to underline, this is a very important point that has been just made. The stakeholder associations, as well as EU Rail, are the places which help to facilitate the fact that railways speak with one voice. And this is especially important in order to implement new technologies which need formulation of concrete user requests and which need services to be delivered in a sort of predefined manner in order to be then ingested into the further standardization processes to facilitate the creation of one railway system for Europe. And remaining now with rail, maybe let me ask Sylvia. You said that there is a lot of experiences also on your side with international consultancy. So basically, given this and your vast experiences on ERTMS, what will be, in your opinion, the impact of the introduction of satellite solutions for signaling modernization and update programs around Europe? It's a complex one. I know that we addressed these issues already yesterday, but I would like to really see what is your perspective as you are going around and speaking with many stakeholders, and this could be a very valid point.
Yes, thank you, Daniel. So, yes, and to summarize perhaps a little bit what we heard yesterday, but I honestly see a positive impact. So we spoke yesterday about the positive impact of what using modern technologies can have in railways, because at least from my experience, this is the only way that we as railway will be able to meet the growing expectations and the growing needs of the customers. So then we will also have a positive impact from an economic perspective. This we also discussed yesterday. From an economic perspective, if we look at it from an overall system point of view, that's also true. We will also have a positive impact from a technical point of view. So from a technical point of view, there are different positive impacts. Just by, say, one example, if we are able to improve the current requirements in Subset 41 on the accuracy of location and the possibilities to have this malfunctioning of the systems, then we will have an immediate, very positive impact on both the engineering and the capacity of ERTMS design and deployment. So we can see that there is a very positive impact if we see this use of the technology in the coming years, but of course we need to do it carefully. We need to take some important decisions in the coming months, years, I don't know, depends. But mostly having the complete system point of view and facilitating the deployment also point of view, because from the feedback that we have from ERTMS, when we go there, ERTMS as such, as a system, is a wonderful system, and when you use it, there are not a lot, so there are no complaints with the ERTMS system. When we start seeing challenges, it's more on the deployment part, on how to place it into service or even how to maintain it. So these are the things that, these are challenges that are not per se sometimes in the system, but that are surrounding factors that affect indeed in the end the result of the system. And we need to take these lessons learned into consideration in the next steps. So of course it's positive to use modern technologies in railways, but of course we need to understand that, and this for engineers, being me one, it's difficult, that sometimes not the most elegant solution is the best one. From an economic analysis point of view, we shouldn't only get an economic analysis from a broad system, but we should also allow for this economic analysis to steer sometimes some of the technical decisions, and also from a technical point of view. So we will have positive technical impact if we take into account not only the definition of the system, but also how we will deploy it and place it in service, and even as we are speaking about new technologies, being able to upgrade it as seamlessly as possible. So yeah, I see a lot of positive impact in the sector in the coming years, and I also see that, as we were saying just before, we're in the right track now, so we are in the right moment with a lot of experience on R&D projects, with results of knowing what are the possibilities, but also the limits of use of this technology in rail. We also have these demonstrators of R2Dato that will, of course, reach to conclusions and consolidate these results. And of course, we, as Jan and Joe were mentioning before, we have this alignment between the trying to reach conclusion for these requirements in the next CCS-TSI, through also a system pillar where the sector is represented. So we are in a very important moment right now to achieve this positive impact of this introduction of the technology.
Thank you, Silvia. So overall positive with a couple of caveats, but on the good track. Now to the concrete part, back to Adif, to Miguel. If I can maybe ask, Miguel, you participated as Adif in the past on a couple of projects involving satellites as well. Could you maybe share with us some more information about what are these projects, what are the outcomes, and what are, from this perspective, your conclusions somehow as far as the GNSS benefits go? How do you see the GNSS benefits themselves from the infra manager perspective? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, as I commented, we are involved in RRD project in which satellites are present and have been present in the past. For example, we have been working with other kind of satellites that provide with INSAR and INSAR technology information about ground deformation, but obviously one of the more relevant projects are related with the positioning based on satellites. So related with that, and let me introduce the first project in which we were involved, that was G-Rail, that finishes in 2010, if I remember well. And in this project there was a roadmap quite important from my point of view, because this is the starting of about how we can enhance the ERTMS with GNSS. And one of the main topic of the roadmap was, one of the key points was work in the standardization of digital mapping for GNSS. Another key point was to analyze the feasibility to introduce in low density, traffic density lines, the train positioning based in GNSS. And another key point was how we can test the implementation of such kind of technology in our lines. So that is related to full demonstrated activities that could be provide a good idea about what we are going to do and what we need. So after this project came G-Rail 2, that was the objective was mainly to achieve the odometry in the train for the high-speed line, and that project finished in 2012, and was for this site was the first project in which we were involved. Another important project for us was ERSAT. That was the first project in which ADIF was involved and provide information in a real track using GNSS Galileo, and we tested in a conventional line in the south of Spain between Badajoz and Córdoba. One equipment that we install in one of our inspection trains. So we tested the technology, and we evaluate how was the behavior and the relation with the virtual bodies in terms of if we have shadow areas or we don't have connection. And after that, and I would like also to mention one project that is ongoing right now, that is RailGap, in which we are involved as well, and we provide our maintenance rolling stock in order to test and create a high accurate digital mapping of the line. So we are right now running a train in one line in the south of Spain, conventional line, in Fuengirola area. So we are going to almost finish all the tests, and we will provide the results very soon. And lastly, I would like to mention one of the most important that we have ongoing right now in our department, that is funded by Next Generation, is supported by Next Generation funds, and is one test project in a metric gauge line in the north of Spain between León and Guardo, in which we are going to develop and install a low ERTMS for low density traffic lines. So in which we have to main technically enable, that is, are clear the absolute safe train position, and as well the adaptable communication system. So that is those two of the main key points, and as well we chosen this line because the orography and the complex of the terrain is quite high, and as well we have to consider other things like climate condition and so on. So we are working on it. We will provide as well a digital mapping of the line, and we are working on it. We will install in a train all the device for the test. So we will have a test train, and as well the line with the equipment in the near future. So we are very happy to work in this project, and we will hope that will be a test line for other stakeholders in order to provide the line for other companies or rolling stock manufacturer in order to test the different capabilities of one line based on positioning, GNSS, and advanced communication system. And obviously from ADIF side, as infra manager, we are, and as well for research and development direction, we are focused on this kind of project. We need to enhance the ERTMS, and we will check with the last project that I commented what will be the cost of the maintenance and the implementation of this kind of signaling system, and as well we are transferring all the results to our company in order to have an idea what will be the next step in the future. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Miguel, and with such a vast experience in the European projects, I count with you also as the early adopter once we are in the TSI. Thank you. Jorge, following this input from Miguel, maybe it would be the time to ask a similar question to you, because same as Adif, you participate also within various R&D activities, helping, but from a slightly different perspective. And I would like to ask, what are, in your opinion, let's say, the main priorities at the moment for follow-up with regards to the adoption of GNSS in ERTMS? The key.
Thank you, Daniel. Yes, we participated with ADIF in the project mentioned by Miguel. We also participated in the project Gate for Rail, where we have a very strong collaboration with the Italian railways. And in this project, we saw how the lab can be used also for simulate a train running over a line equipped with virtual balises, and we can integrate an onboard unit and test the circulation of this onboard unit over a real line. But for me, first of all, let me be slightly provocative, because we all should recognize that the railway sector is, I don't know if slightly or very conservative. We take a long time to integrate the new technologies, sometimes too long time. We are discussing in that level of safety of the new devices, while we are maintaining lines with Class B system in many countries with a level of safety very lower than the discussion we are having with the new devices. Therefore, we should try to promote the deployment of ETCS, and for me, this deployment, the satellite signal is one of the key issues, because we will strongly reduce the cost. For example, in this line with ADIF, Miguel mentioned, we are going to operate in level 2 without any GSMR network. We will use public telecommunications, and in the future, if possible, IRIS Square or satellite communications. But we are going to make an engineering for this regional line with low traffic, perhaps with radio halls. It's a functionality already considered in the ETCS. And this kind of demonstrators is what we have to promote. As the Fabio is here, the Italian railways, they do many demonstrators. You have been pioneers in ETCS, as Spain in some case. Therefore, this is the step to be increased, have more demonstrators, and just to demonstrate that the technology is ready to be included in the TSI. And the second part is the regulatory part, how fast the TSI will include these improvements. And this is, for me, is a key issue, because we cannot ask ADIF for including anything that is not included in the TSI. Therefore, they need the infra managers, they need this solution will be included as fast as possible. Another point we have to take into account in the introduction of satellite technologies, perhaps the certification process could be more complicated, because we have to characterize the line before using the satellite, and this is a step that we didn't have before with the normal or standard ETCS. But this is something that we did in the AirSat project, and we can do it, and we can characterize the line where the coverage is good enough or not. In the areas where the coverage is not good enough, We will install balises for sure. We have the solution in our hands. And last, the cost. Yesterday it was mentioned that the cost, and this is something that happened since the beginning of ERTMS, that the cost is covered most by the operator than the inframanagers. In this case, obviously the inframanagers will save money, and the operators will increase the cost not very much, because the receptor of Galileo of GNSS is a very cheap device compared with other devices we have in the trains. But I think it's something to be analyzed by the national authorities, how to share this cost reduction of the inframanagers with the operators. And the solution, there will be many solutions: reduce the fees for the track occupancy, whatever, many solutions. And just to finish, again, to highlight the role of the labs for testing these technologies, as we demonstrated in Gate4Rail, for testing in advance, and we can play a role, not vital, but at least important, as the role we played in the past with the deployment of TCS in Spain. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you, Jorge. Indeed, the certification aspects, especially that you mentioned, coming back to that, are very important, and we have to admit that some activities have been already made in the past, also within our R&D projects, like the already mentioned AirSat for the characterization of the lines, etc. So this can be then found as very helpful in the future once we need it. Thank you. And now, to the even more concrete steps further for what concerns the space program. Valentin, as you are now representing EURail FA2, I would like to ask you if you could summarize for us maybe and explain a little bit from your user perspective, what is actually still missing, what is expected from the EU space program somehow. What do you want from us?
Yeah, well, thank you, Daniel, for this question. I think I will extend a bit the question not only to the EU space program, but also from the rail side, taking into consideration what was said by Jorge right before and yesterday by some members also. Well, the target date for the introduction of satellite-based solution in the TSI is not that fixed, but it was mentioned several times yesterday that we are targeting 2027, which is great. However, well, there are still some challenges to be faced, and that's what I would like to highlight here. Two main points. One, regarding more related to the rail sector. So, well, there are 8 demonstrators in the frame of R2D2, and all of them have different architectures and are interfacing differently with the ETCS system and notably the EVC, with different architecture, different way of proceedings with different interfaces. So there is still a lot of work to do on the rail side to kind of converge to one common architecture and one way of talking to the EVC. So this is very important that we manage to converge as soon as possible. This is in a good direction. There was some preparatory work done in the frame of X2L5 that needs to be finalized in the frame of R2D2 with the help of the system pillar, of course, because we will need them probably to validate everything and to potentially take also some final decisions. So that's one point. The second one is this time more related to the space sector. Well, so as I said, there are 8 demonstrators. All of them are using GNSS. All of them are using GNSS, and 6 out of these 8 intend to use an EGNOS for rail service to reach the required safety levels. So that's a quite high number. To move on with the TSI, we'll first need to make some solid demonstration of performance. What does it mean? It means testing on a large enough amount of data in all kind of possible rail environment, and to prove that the safe confidence interval computed by these solutions will be in line with the expected operational needs. So if we want to do so, notably for this demonstrator in need of an EGNOS for rail service, we will need to have an EGNOS for rail service which is available for our demonstration. So This EGNOS service cannot be the one already in place for aviation because we need some different characteristics, so it will have to be adapted. And for instance, notably, we need a performance commitment at the measurement level. So this is why during the past year we have been working with the space agencies, USPA and ESA, as well as ERA, Maria Jose notably, and with the ERGU, R2DATO and ERGU Management and System Pillar, to define an activity plan for the next 2 years that targets the release of an EGNOS for Rail demonstrator, service demonstrator, by early 2025. Why this date? Because actually this matches the beginning of the demonstration phase of R2DATO, which will go from 2025 to mid-2026. So this is why we need this service by that time. So this service, it will be prepared by the space agencies with the help of the space industry, of course, and it will be used by the R2DATO demonstrators. The R2DATO demonstrators will collect EGNOS data from this service demonstrator that will be used by this demonstrator to compute the safe confidence interval and therefore make this demonstration as solid as possible. So you can understand that this service is with the committable performance that are associated to it in the future, is a prerequisite to the success of not all, but part of the demonstrator of the R2DATO project. So this is why there is a need of a strong collaboration between the rail and the space sector if we want to achieve this goal and demonstrate the GNSS-based localization solution for ERTMS by 2025-2026. So having successful demonstration will of course facilitate a lot the adoption of the satellite-based solution in the frame of the ERTMS TSI. This being said, we have a quite tight planning because you understood that the demonstration phase will happen between 25 and 26, and we want to specify in the TSI in 2027. So if we want to succeed, we'll have to be all very proactive and active toward this goal. And something that could help is to have this, this demonstrator on time, so by early 2025. Well, so that's all for me. Thank you.
Well, so if I understand correctly, by 2025, you want an EGNOS service demonstrator with the possibility to commit in the future as a service. So not by 25 with the commitment?
No, not by 25 with the commitment.
Okay.
To commit in the future, we need just a demonstrator so far that we can use in the frame of our demonstration, yes.
Slightly better, no?
Yes.
But, okay, coming back to the space segment at the moment, maybe let me ask you, Fiammetta, in this sense, no? Looking at this work ahead of us, kind of, now some people say that railways are not fast and not innovative. Maybe now they are even too fast, no? As far as I see. Do you think that we can deliver such a demonstrator, and eventually at the same time, how do you see our future role in this and in general also of the space program in rail?
Yes, thanks, Daniel, but I think the question is for you, because you may know that Daniel is in my team the best man of rail, so why are you asking me? No, so joke apart, so I would like first of all to thank Jorge and Miguel to have reminded all the work that has been done, because we are not starting now, no? Just to make it clear. There was a lot of work that has been done, funded by the European Commission, via also our agency, that demonstrated many aspects that are now needed. And from what I understood, you didn't see any real blocking points. No? Many of them has been developed, and now it's time to make it. So thanks for this overview that you provided. And thanks, Valentin, to bring us back to the next step. So we have this target of 2027. I think this is what we need as a space, let's say, sector, because we need to see the light, no? At the end of the tunnel. We need to see when we will see it applied. And based on it, we can then do our own part that is still missing, that is to tailor the EGNOS service to comply. So we already embraced this way of having what we call multimodal EGNOS since some time. So EGNOS was born for aviation, as you know, because you know the story very well, but is no more for aviation only. So we are going to have a maritime service declared very soon, in few months from now, where we work with the maritime community quite extensively, and the next steps is rail. So we are going to go there. It's clear the need for a service demonstrator. That is also quite of a normal practice in our kind of sector, to have a demonstrator before having the committed service. This we are doing, for example, in all the differentiator of Galileo today. So this is a point well taken, and so from our side we are ready, but we need also what was mentioned before, convergence from the rail sector. We still see that there are different approaches, but we need to have one in order to make the system correct, and commitment as well. So we need to be together in this commitment. We cannot be alone.
Thank you very much, Fiammetta. Lessons learned. If you ask questions to your boss, always comes ready also with the answer. But let's stay now for a second more in the space domain. Philippe, so ESA has been helping us since day one, really, on this task, since the early days of market development activities. I see also many of your colleagues, Chris, Enrico, there in the room. So thank you again for that. And I would like to ask, how do you see the main priorities and where ESA should also contribute?
Yes, thank you. Before answering your question, Fiammetta, if you allow me, I think I'm sure you will join me by recalling to the audience, that we should be proud of being European, because we have the best GNSS systems in the world. You should know that Galileo is 3 times better than GPS. You should know also that Galileo provides a number of services which do not exist anywhere else, like authentication, probably useful for what was discussed this morning, like high accuracy services, 20 centimeters were declared at the beginning of the year, like search and rescue, and like a number of others. And not only that, we have engaged now all the European space industry in preparing already the second generation of Galileo to bring even better and even additional services. The same for EGNOS. EGNOS is part of a worldwide family of equivalent systems, and this is the European component of this worldwide family. EGNOS is also delivering excellent services, and is also on its way to prepare a second generation integrating Galileo inside the corrections we will be provided for safety of flight applications. It will be the first system over the world doing that, and all the others are a bit jealous of what we are doing. I close this bracket to say that it provides even further opportunities, therefore, for the rail sectors. Now, back to the priorities. And so we have been involved in the discussions that Valentin and Fiammetta were discussing. In our view, so one of the first priority is there is already an EGNOS existing. We understand that this EGNOS can provide solutions to a number of your use case, not all, but a certain number of your use case. So the first package of action is actually to make sure that this happens, which means that seen from the system point of view, it requires basically to extend the field of qualification of EGNOS to provide the safety evidence that you need, let's say, to demonstrate your use case, and to link this to the standardization activities, actually, as you were mentioning this morning. So that's the first, probably, package of activity. But of course, we need to be pragmatic, but also to be a bit visionary, because you are not engaging your sector for the next 3 years or the next 5 years. You are engaging your sectors for decades. And therefore, not only you need to think to the short-term steps, but you need to think also to the longer-term steps. And this is what you were discussing, Valentin. We are convinced that indeed an EGNOS solution which has been optimized for the aviation sector can be optimized for the railway sector, or maybe with some modifications, what Fiammetta was saying. And this we need actually to work upon that and to demonstrate that indeed the ideas that people have on what else can be provided are actually demonstrated. And this is necessary for you to convince also your user to build your decision-making process, also for Europe to make this decision-making. And so this is indeed the second set of activities which need to be pursued and that you are mentioning. A third thing in our view is back to the, sorry, there is a screen here, it's a bit difficult, but back also to what, I don't remember your name, but the lady was saying this morning about research. It's very important actually to prepare the research, meaning the way that space solutions can be integrated in your system. And this is everything turning around the integration of space-based solution into your user environment. And this is the fusion of data. This is also the question of integrating, this new concept in your concept of operations, etc., etc. And so there is a lot to be done. A lot is already being done. I just want to say that from the ESA point of view, we have also a number of programs which can help to accompany this movement from the space perspective. We try to see how we can help SMEs, notably, and companies which are not used to space activities to see how they can take benefit of space solutions. And these programs, we can contribute financially, we can also contribute technically. We have also laboratories that we can make at disposal. So this is something that we can put at the service of the community to help prepare this transition. I'm saying that because we have been working with the aviation community for decades now. And I was hearing yesterday a number of your considerations regarding the need for standardization, the need for cost-benefit analysis, the need to convince the user community, the need to have long-term vision on how you are going to transition, whether you are going to rely on these solutions as primary means, secondary means, whether you can decommission existing equipment to build your business case. And all these questions, I can tell you, were the same in the aviation community, so there is also a lot to learn, I'm not saying that your problematics are the same, but there are a number of questions which are similar, and they have all resolved these questions, and now the user adoption is excellent. And in this context, we are also working, because when we look at the problematic of satellite navigation, or more generally position navigation and timing for the future, we see that there are a very large set of similar needs in all, let's say, I would call the mobility problematics. Autonomous transportation, whether for cars, for maritime, for train, decarbonization, smart cities, and so on. And what we are also trying to do is to have forum where we try to link, let's say, the community of the space sectors with those communities, and to have, let's say, ways that information can be shared and opportunities can be made between the actors. In that context, I would like to announce that we have an event at the end of the month of November, the 27th of November, where we will do this gathering. It will be one amongst others, and this is also something to which we can contribute. So in a nutshell, I think this is where I would see priorities and where I think that the European Space Agency can contribute in strong partnership with USPA, and I am convinced that there are a lot of opportunities.
Thank you very much, Philip, and we, of course, will remain with great pleasure, coordinated, like since the very beginning, that we are working in the railway segment on this joint topic. Now, coming to you, Jo, with one particular question. I was actually hiding yesterday in the back of the conference room when you were commenting the pyramid that we presented with Lea. I don't know if you liked it or not, but anyway, from a certain perspective of the standardization, you are on top. And it's a good position, I think, as long as the pyramid is not set on fire somehow. But don't worry, despite we are using hydrazine for our rockets, we are not planning to do so. We do research, and in this sense, I would just like to ask from your perspective, if you could briefly just summarize what input in concrete terms is needed from the rail and space community together, from the stakeholders to start the change management process towards GNSS inclusion in ERTMS.
Okay. I try to be quick. So to explain a bit, our CCM process normally starts with change requests. And there's not only this one as a change request, but there can be other change requests. So meaning at some moment in time we need maybe some priorities. And to set priorities together with the sector, we are working together very closely with System Pillar. We are looking to what they call standardization and TSI input plan to see what do we have to work on when. So this is one element, looking for priorities. Another element is we have at a certain moment in time start the technical work to integrate all those documents in the technical specifications. And when we want to start, we want to be sure that the input we get is mature. How can we try to measure that maturity? This is also something new that we introduced together with the System Pillar. It's a pre-assessment template we defined to check already ahead, not in 2 years, but as soon as possible to see, looking on what will be the technical solutions, migration, backwards compatibility. So a lot of elements, not only technical elements, but other elements, also business case, to be taken into account in the pre-assessment template. That pre-assessment will at ERA be analyzed by a multidisciplinary team, also to see if there are no impacts on other TSIs, because we are now focusing on CCS, but it could be that by introducing this, it has other TSIs that are impacted. So for us, it's really important that we can start with a mature solution. We do the maturity check. We need a minimum level of maturity before we will start the discussions in our EECT. If at a certain moment in time, and I think we already heard it here that there are demonstrators, we need some convergence on architectural choices. So if needed at a certain moment in time, we are happy to step into the discussions to try to come to an agreement within if the sector is not able to do it, that we try as ERA to come to an agreement and to push for a solution that we think together with the sector that is the right way forward to introduce the space or satellite in the TSI.
Thank you very much, Jo. Now the last question goes to Jan of this panel. Jan, taking into account the input that Valentin provided as well as the EU Space Program and Jo, can you please share with us a couple of more details from the system pillar view and specifically related to the involvement of the system pillar in the GNSS relevant activities, summarizing the way forward from your perspective?
Sure, yeah. I mean, the session is about the practical steps. I mean, I think Valentin described well the work that's needed to essentially demonstrate the suitability and, in the end, use of GNSS EGNOS within rail. What I want to talk about a little bit is the practical steps that Jo was touching on about transporting the demonstration into the TSI framework. First of all, it is clear for this topic that we are in the realm of TSIs primarily. So we're in that framework. We're not so much in another rail regulatory framework. Then I think we need to recognize that there are several layers of consideration. So first of all, the use of satellite for rail is primarily focused to enhance or absolute safe train positioning. There are other considerations also, other technologies, other approaches on absolute train positioning. So you need to consider, in terms of the evolution of the system, the different approaches and exactly what options are ready and should be used at what point. That consideration then also has an impact on the overall, primarily onboard system architecture. So consideration about interfaces to standardize, performance requirements overall, and again, there may be other elements outside of the consideration of train positioning that need to be considered in the evolution of the onboard. All of these elements are within the remit of the TSI evolution. And then beyond that, as Jo was mentioning, a consideration of the broader strategy for TSI change. So not just looking at the onboard change, but also the trackside change and the improvements that want to be introduced over time. So these are all independent elements and independent elements of work, but in the end, they need to converge at the TSI level on one revision at one date. So that work, at least from the JU perspective, is through what you referred to as the standardization TSI input plan. Here we try and get a complete view from the JU work of where the outputs of the JU will input to the TSI work. So as part of that, then the satellite requirements will be part of it, but then the considerations on timing and the considerations on prioritization are in the round of that discussion. And we hope to get the first version of that document out the end of this year or early next. So that, I think, will be hopefully an important reference point also to support the agency, the Commission, the sector in thinking about the relative prioritization. And then I think the other important element is this issue of quality. If we want speed, then we need to make sure that the outputs that go into the agency-led process for the updating of the TSI are of a good quality. So as you said, we have now a new process based on experience, a two-stage kind of checking, and here we have also resource within the system pillar to support the sector and the agency in terms of assessing whether the inputs overall are of a good quality and where there are areas of improvement, so that we're not getting a situation where inputs are being provided relatively last minute, potentially not very good quality, and that it impacts on what is, as I say, in the end, a single date for revision. So many layers. In the end, there needs to be a strategic view for the whole system change, and satellite and the usage of satellite is an important part of that. But it also needs to be seen in the context of overall system change, and this is hopefully where the resource from the system pillar can help.
Thank you very much, and thank you to all the panelists. As you can see, and coming back to the small presentation we had yesterday together with EURail, with Lea Patisse, there was a couple of dates that are corresponding also with what has been presented yesterday by Josef from ERA. We have a plan. We have some building blocks that are already taking concrete shape. First step will be also on the side of the railways and the space program to deal with the requirements and EGNOS, and then the subsequent steps shall be also duly coordinated with our group of the agencies. With this, I would like to thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for the attention. As the master of ceremony indicated to me, we are a little bit in a rush for the exit of our buses to the site visits. However, I would like to ask you kindly for a big applause to our panelists. So thank you very much again.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, panelists. Really thank you all for this inspiring and insightful journey we've embarked upon during the Space for Innovation in Rail event. Throughout the event, we've heard from experts, visionaries, and innovators who have shared their expertise and experiences in harnessing satellite technology to revolutionize the European rail traffic management system. From the engaging discussions we've had and presentation, several key takeaways have emerged. So before I pass on the floor to our directors for a short conclusion, I just want to really to extend my heartfelt thanks to the organizers, so CEDEX, once again, thank you for hosting us, to the speakers, panelists, also to the technicians, thank you very much for helping us throughout the event, the photographer. And I strongly encourage you to carry on the discussion beyond this event. We've had 523 views to our event online, so this really is a symptom of the importance of this event, and we've had constant presence online. So thank you to our online viewers as well. I remind that after the lunch, you will be then gathering outside of the event and join your group that will be indicated by your guide with a panel. And I just wanted to highlight as well that you will be able to witness in the entrance hall a series of videos which are part of a EU Rail campaign on the European Year of Skills. And we have actually filmed some of our partners and stakeholders who have shared with us their vision on the challenges of working in the rail sector in the future. So you can witness this in the entrance. And I think I will now give the floor to our director, so I'm happy to call on stage Fiametti Diani, who is representing then Rodrigo da Costa, who couldn't be with us today. She's actually on stage. I will ask the other panelists to leave the stage. Thank you very much for your insightful contributions. I then call Joseph Doppelbauer, Director for the European Union Agency for Railways, and of course, last and not least, Giorgio Travaini, my Executive Director for Europe's Rail Joint Undertaking, for their conclusion words. And I'll see you at the lunch and then afterwards outside for the visit. Thank you to everybody.
So thanks a lot, gentlemen, to give me the first word. So I was thinking of our last, let's say, gathering in this same configuration, that it was in 2019 in Vienna. And I remember there we had a vision. So we had a vision to see the satellite navigation, our EGNOS, Galileo, used in rail. And so I'm pleased that today we don't have just a vision, but we have a commitment, we have practical steps we just discussed, and we have also a date, that is 2027, to see it in practice. So I think this is the big achievement that we made along these years, working together in this strong cooperation among the agencies. And but today, this morning in particular, we also matured another vision, a new one. That is, there is not only satellite navigation, our train positioning, there is also the SATCOM, where European Union is investing, is creating GovSatcom and IRIS Squared, a new system that, as Galileo, will be leaders tomorrow. And so this vision is to see it used also in rail. And there I have, in conclusion, two messages for you. The first one is, with satellite navigation, we suffered a bit of this non-convergence, or let's say different visions from the rail sector. So we need, if we want to SATCOM to be used, the European Union SATCOM to be used in rail, to mitigate this for the next time, and so to have a common vision how we want to do it, if you want to do it. And on this, I have also a concrete proposal. We will be back in Spain, in Sevilla, on the 7th of November, in the frame of our EU Space Week. Some of you already participated. You know it's our yearly event. We have the user consultation platform. It's really the place for the users, in this case for the rail sector, to express your use cases, your needs, how you see it. So please join us. Join us possibly with a common view, or trying to converge to a common view, because we want to transform this vision that emerged in these days, as we are doing for GNSS, in concrete steps, in dates, and what to do. So that's my conclusion, and I'm very happy to be here with you and to hear also your conclusions. Thanks, Joseph. I hand you the word.
Grazie. Thank you, Fiammetta. And like Fiammetta, I would also go back to 2019 in Vienna. And there, we really expressed the vision. The vision at that time was that satellite-based solutions can provide cost-effective solutions that are attractive for railways. In the 2.5 days of this conference, I have seen a lot of progress. I am also thinking that a lot of this progress is thanks to the fact that now we have the joint undertaking in place, we have a framework for cooperation in place, and we have also seen now the concrete potential both on the GNSS part, which was discussed yesterday, and on the SATCOM part that was discussed today. Now we need to look forward. We need to make the vision and the commitment a reality. One part, and this is the commitment of the agency, we are working to bring the satellite-based solutions into the regulatory framework. Maria José has presented the overall outline of our activity. I also mentioned 2027 as a kind of indicative date, subject to a mandate to be received from the European Commission. But there is other important activities going on. There is the 8 demonstrators going on in the context of Europe's rail, 25, 26. I saw with interest the Iris Square presentation this morning, showing that 28 there will be the availability of the service. I propose that the sector starts to plan now to have real operational pilots, so after the demonstrators, with the technical system outlined already in the specifications, to have operational pilots. And again, I stress the sector needs to be ambitious to have products on the market by 2030. We have still to solve the key problem of the railway sector, that infrastructure and the railway system overall is too expensive. We have the big opportunity to save cost on the infrastructure while providing safe and secure services that can even give us additional possibilities. And for me, this Space for Rail event was a key motivator that we need to continue in this direction. So thank you very much to the organizers, to our teams in the agencies. Thanks again to the host SEDEX for the excellent facilities, and thanks for the opportunity to have a dinner in a marvelous environment last night. And thanks to all of you for your active participation in this event. And hand over to Giorgio.
Thank you, Joseph. Dear colleagues, I think that you will hear from the three of us the concept repeated and repeated again. And sometimes this is useful because it means that we are aligned among agencies, and we hope that we can drive forward the sector in this direction. And I would say that in this presentation I kind of learned two things. So one, that we're really at a milestone point with this conference because you have done already a lot, and we are now in a situation where we need to capitalize all of this work, research and innovation work that has been done, that will need to be continued to be done. As Marion mentioned, research and innovation needs to continue to bring forward also further vision, but it's also time now to deliver. And this is the message that we're providing to you. And each of us has our share of responsibilities. On the Europe's rail side, as was mentioned before, we need to successfully conclude the work of those 8 demonstrations activity. And we need to look at obviously from, those are mainly from the localization and speed perspective. EUSPA also already mentioned, it will help us to deliver these EGNOS services so that they are responding also to the rail needs. And ERA will work on with us also on the correct planning for the introduction in the TSI plan. And also we have heard, understanding what are the authorization and certification components of adding EGNOS to the rail services. But then secondly, I think I have learned another important matter, is that the work also just started. Because it is now time also to look forward. We see the space world innovating, and we see, as was mentioned, that SATCOM is coming up, and is coming up on a rate that it's actually quite comparable with what we actually need in terms of communication change in the rail system. So we really need to think about it, but of course we need to think in the forward future, and also what we have just started to think is also the migration concern. This is something we need to address. We heard also before about business cases, making sure that who pays, who gets the benefit is solved. And all of this, it's something that we need to tackle as well, in parallel to the solving the technical matters of ensuring to have one architecture that can enter into the TSI. And I think we also have a clear and strategic alignment from the Union, so we have this IRIS program that can really provide us this new vision. And let me conclude as well with saying that, as usual, we need your brain and your ideas. It was mentioned before that outside there is a board for filling out those ideas. Don't hesitate to do so, but don't hesitate also to come back to us. So don't be scared about putting forward new ideas and new solutions, because we're here also to listen and to be sure that this is embedded in our programs. And one of the key words of the introduction this morning was that the European Union is going forward the European competitiveness. So we need your brain to bring forward the European competitiveness. And so with this I conclude, and I also thank you very much. I thank SEDEX, I thank FFE, I thank the presidency, and all the work that has been done by the organizer. And of course I also thank a lot of our communication team that has been working very hard to achieve this successful event. Thanks a lot to everyone.